So we are starting our Chapter 1 practice test. This practice test, the problems are in groups of 2. So as you look through, you'll notice basically pairs of problems that are similar. So we're going to go over these in groups of 2. I'm going to go over problems 1 and 2. You'll pause the video and then do the next 2, and so on and so forth. So before I do 1 and 2, pause the video and try to do problems 1 and 2. All right, so transformations. I'm going to use the fact that it's multiple choice to help me. Let's see what we got. +3. Now, +3 on the outside means up 3. So I'm looking for up 3. There was an up 3. There's an up 3. So that means it can't be that one, or that one. Okay. What else do I see? I see a -2 right there. That's inside, so that means right 2. Right 2. Yeah, so by itself, I'm able to pick A. Now, A, remember, it's inside, so we do a reciprocal. Sorry, think about that word for a second. So a reciprocal is 1/3. It's a horizontal, because 1/3 is less than 1, compress. So horizontal compression by 1/3. Now look at theirs. Compress horizontally by, remember from our lesson, we always, if it says compress right here, you always put a 1 over that number. Okay. All right. Same exact thing in number 2, whereas I have a 3 inside. So I was like, oh, okay. Horizontal, reciprocal because it's inside. So 1/3, and 1/3 is less than 1. So compress. And so I already know that, well, it's not expand. Oh, compress, but that says vertically. So nope, not that one. Compress horizontally, put a 1 over it. Compress horizontally, put a 1 over it. Compress horizontally, put a 1 over it. Okay, so either B, D, or E all work for that. Let's try one of the other ones. What about that -3? That means I'm going down 3. A down 3 right there is good. Nope, nope, nope. That one would have worked, but I already canceled that one out for a whole other reason. So it had to be D. And that minus sign out front is a reflection across the x-axis, not the y-axis. If it was inside, it'd be y-axis. It's reflection across the x-axis. All right, so that's an example of 1 and 2. All right, here's problems 3 and 4. Go ahead and pause the video and try to do problems 3 and 4. All right, so when we're doing these, the first thing I need to look at is, what is my parent function? If you notice, all the answer choices always have the same parent function, so they're not making you guess what the parent function is. So they all say, for this one, f of x equals absolute value of x. That would be there, 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 and somewhere about there. Parent function, looks like that. So I'll say, okay, how do I get from the parent function, which I just put in red, to the blue line? Well, it's clearly pointing the other direction. So it's pointing left, mine's pointing right. So if I reflected about the y-axis, let's try that. That would be reflecting across the y-axis. I'm going to try to, all right, so I have square root of x, all right, and try to keep up with these transformations. So I've looked at about the the y-axis, so negative inside, but that's not enough. It pointed it to the left, but the shape is wrong. So I need to reflect it, the green one, about the x-axis now. And then I get that pink one right there. Well, that means I need to put a negative outside as well. And then I need to shift my pink one down 1, 2, 3 units. So that's on the outside, a -3. And that matches up answer choice C. Over here to number 4. parent function. They're all square root of x. So here, 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 here. That's what it normally looks like. I see, this shape is exactly the same. They haven't stretched it, compressed it. They haven't even reflected it. All they have is just moved it a little bit. So how have they moved it? They've moved it right 1, down 2. Right 1, down 2. Well, right 1, remember, that's going to be inside, and it's going to be backwards. So I should see x minus 1 inside, like that and like that. But that down 2, I should see a minus 2 on the outside. So down 2, a minus 2, a minus 2. Well, C is the one that had both of those together on the same one. So there we go. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try number 5 and 6. So number 5, it says expand vertically by a factor of 2. Now this one's a little weird because it's the rational function. Let's see what this looks like. Expand vertically means I'd multiply the outside by 2. But when I multiply a fraction by a whole number, then so what I'm really multiplying is 2 over 1. And so that means 1 times x is x, 2 times 1 is 2. So multiplying the outside by 2 is the same as just multiplying the top by 2. So whenever we expand something, a rational function vertically, we'll see the number usually on top of the fraction as opposed to out front of the fraction. Okay, so that means it's got to be either E or D. Left 3 means I should see a plus 3 in the bottom, and then down 1 means I should see minus 1 on the end, and so it's got to be answer choice E. Expand horizontally by a factor of 2. That means inside I should see a 1/2 because we'll do reciprocal. So inside I should see a 1/2 by itself gives you answer choice E. Right 1 means inside of that x minus 1, and then up 2 means add 2 on the end. All right, go ahead and try numbers 7 and 8. This is composition. All right. 7 and 8 are both composition, but they are very different as far as how the problems work. So 7, start with our outside function, f. We're going to take that, parentheses, plus 2. All right. Take that, plug it in. 2n minus 1. And they'll simplify. Well, 2n, -1 plus 2 plus 1. Done. Very simple, very straightforward. Your number 8, though, let's see. Okay, outside function is g. There's g, and right away I see, whoa, a second. There are 2 letters, 2 variables. Okay, so I put parentheses where both of them. Notice I leave the squared. I'm just replacing the variable. And so that means I have to plug that in twice for a plus 5, for a plus 5. And we spent some time talking about this, but right here, this is a binomial squared. You cannot square the first one and square the last one and just be done. Remember, 4a plus 5 squared is the same thing as 4a plus 5 times 4a plus 5. So you can use your box, you can distribute, but either way, you need to get 3 terms when you finish multiplying. I had mentioned our shortcut is I can square the first one. Well, that's 16a squared. But then I need to say 2 times 5 times 4a. Well, 2 times 5 is 10, times 4a is plus 40a. And then I can square the last one plus 25. So a lot of people I know don't like the shortcut because that doesn't make sense to them. That's hard to remember. So you might probably better off just saying, oh, 4a plus 5, 4a plus 5, multiply, make your box. 16a squared, 20a, 20, 20a, 25, and then those two make that 40a right there. The last one doesn't have a squared, so I can just say 4a plus 5. And now I'll combine like terms and say, okay, 16a squared, 40a and 4a make plus 44a, 25 and 5 make plus 30. Pause the video and try number 9 and 10. 9 and 10 are both composition, same as what we just did, but we're just plugging a number in. So here I'm starting with my outside function, negative parentheses plus 4, putting my inside function inside of there. But this is what's different. I'm going to say parentheses cubed minus 2 parentheses squared, because inside of there, I take my number, 0. 0 is the easiest number to do math with, so this will work out well. 0 cubed is 0. 0 times 2 is not 2. 0. That's all going to become 0 plus 4, which is 4. So over here, number 10, we do the same thing. There's our outside function, 3 parentheses minus 5. Here's my inside function, parentheses squared minus 5. There's negative 7. 3. Negative 7 squared is 49 minus 5. (49 minus 5 is 44. Well, parentheses are important. 3 times 44, let's see here, 44 multiply, 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 1, 13. So 132 minus 5 is 127. Right there. All right, pause the video and try number 11 and 12. All right, so for 11 and 12, you're just figuring out what's the inside function, what's the outside function. So I look at 11 and think, okay, what's inside? Well, that right there looks like it's inside. Inside function's g, so that means g of x 2 to the x power. Well, there's my, if I replace that now with an x, what do I get? I should get my outside function, which would be 2 square root of x plus 1. And then I just match that up to an answer choice. And be careful, because a lot of times they have the backwards one available. So for instance, yeah, if you look at B, B is wrong, but it's really, really close. Let's see here. E is the correct answer. Same thing for number 12. It's a little bit more obvious. There's my inside function. G is the inside, because it's the second one. So that's square root of x plus 1. Well, what is g inside of? Well, if I replace that with an x, I'd get f of x equals 3x minus 1. And let's match that up. It matches up to answer choice B. But notice that, yep, E was waiting on me to get those backwards. So careful there. All right, pause the video and try 13 and 14. So when I do an inverse, x, y, switch x and y. And so it's like, okay, well, now I want to add 1 to both sides. X plus 1 equals 4 over y plus 1. Multiply both sides by y plus 1. And it gives me y plus 1, x plus 1. I'm not going to distribute those. Those cancel out, and I get 4. I'm not distributing because I'm trying to keep y by itself. So I'm going to divide now by x plus 1. Y plus 1 equals 4 over x minus 1, minus 1, and that right there is what I'm looking for. 4 over x plus 1 minus 1. All right, number 14. 2 ways you can do 14. First way is, again, switch x and y. Right? Although they're not actually using x and y, but I'm going to change from x and y and use x and y. So, and then think, okay, let's rewrite what I have. Negative y minus 1 to the 5th. All right, so I need to get rid of that negative. So I have negative x equals y minus 1 to the 5th power. Now I need to get rid of the exponent of 5. So I'll take the 5th root. 5th root, negative x, y minus 1. Add 1. 5th root of negative x plus 1. And I think, okay, does that match up anything? Well, not exactly, but it comes pretty close to that one. And the reason why is it's an odd numbered root. And so because it's an odd root, I can move that negative out front if I want to. Okay, and that's what they did to get their answer. Now, shortcut for number 14 is to recognize if this is a power of 5, then the inverse has to be a root of 5. And D was the only option that had a root of 5. So D was the only possible answer anyway. All right, now hopefully these are the 2 easiest problems on our test. Maximum number of turns, you just take, oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Pause the video, try 15 and 16, and then I'll go. All right, so we take the highest exponent, we subtract 1, and 3 minus 1 is 2. And that's it. Highest exponent, minus 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. And there you go, maximum number of turns. (17 and 18). All right, so for 17 and 18, oh, pause the video, and then I'll go over. All right, so 17, and really for both of these, we're going to factor them. So I'm going to say, okay, x squared. I can factor an x squared out of both of those terms. So that equals 0. And if I factor out an x squared, what do I have left? Well, remember, when I'm factoring, I'm really dividing. When I divide, I subtract exponents. So 3 minus 2 is exponent of 1. And then when I divide something by itself, I get just 1. And I should be able to distribute that x squared and get back to the original. Okay. And now I'm going to, that x squared, I'm going to rewrite that as x times x times x minus 1. And it'll make sense why I broke that x apart in a second. And then I'll say x equals 0, x equals 0, x minus 1 equals 0. So I said each part equals 0. and then solve for x. Well, the first two are already solved for x. This one is need to add 1 to both sides. X equals 1. And so I get that, and that. Except those x equals zeros, they occurred 2 times. So we rewrite that as x equals 0 molt 2, meaning it was repeated twice. Give me answer choice D. Right? Now, from a graphical standpoint, what that means, because if you did this on your calculator, lots of these we did on our calculator, we were doing our lesson. Well, it means there's 0, and we'll say there's 1, okay? Well, if I graph it on my calculator, it's going to look like this. It's going to come up, touch there, go back down, and then come through, okay? That's what that would look like if I use my calculator to try to solve this. All right, what about 18? We'll go backwards on this one. So if I graph it, hopefully we all know how to graph. I'm not pulling my calculator up, but if we graph it, it should look like this. All right, just kind of flattens out right there at 0. Okay, now that can be a little confusing on this one, but process elimination, it only has 1 0, and the only 0 it has is right there at 0. So cancel out everything else that has anything other than just 0, and I'm left with C. But what's the other way I could have done this? Well, if I factor it, I think, okay, I have x to the 4th, which is the same thing as x times x times x times x. So each one equals 0. And I see, oh, well, I have x equals 0, and it occurred 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So molt 4. And there you go. All right, last 2 questions in behavior. Go ahead and try these 2. Pause the video, try these 2, and we'll go over them. All right, so as you're doing these, there's really 2 ways. You can try to remember our chart we did. All right, we talked about even, odd, positive, negative. And let's see here, if it's even, they both go the same direction. Okay, even positive both up, even negative both down. Whereas odd, they're going to be like this. All right, or you can just graph. That works too. Either way, I need to look and say, okay, what's happening to the ends, the arrows? So I'm going to say, okay, this one is even, and it is negative, right? Even and negative. So what's happening? If it's even and negative, that means both of my arrows are going down. So it doesn't matter if I go to the left or to the right, my y values are going down. So I'm looking for both negatives. And right here, I see they're both negative. Now, we'll go ahead and point out, there's only 4 possibilities for any behavior of polynomials, and yet there's 5 answer choices, which means there's always going to be one answer choice that's just kind of weird and different. So for this case, it was D, it equals 0. And for this one is A, 0 and -1. I point that out because I know sometimes students like to circle an answer choice just because it looks different. Well, just because an answer looks different doesn't mean it's right. In this case, it automatically means it's wrong. So if you're doing these and you're just completely guessing, don't guess that one. That's wrong. All right, coming on to number 20. 20, odd. And if I look in front, positive. Well, that means I'm in this box right here. That means as I go to the left, it's going down. Well, left is negative and down is negative. So that means both my x and my y need to be negative. That's good. Both need to be negative. That's good. Nope. Nope. Okay. And then as I go to the right, which is the positive x, I should be going up, which is positive y. So positive x should have a positive y. Nope. Positive x should have a positive y. Yep, that one. Okay. Now, while I go ahead and have this, I'm going to erase all the stuff I just drew on this one and just point out what each one of these are. Okay, so C is an example of even negative because they're both negative. E, we just did E, is odd positive. So that's what odd positive looks like. Circle that together so you can see what that's talking about. Well, B, they're both positive, so that's even positive. And then there's only one other possibility. So D has to be odd negative. Notice that with odd ones, if it's positive, they match. You see that? They match together. Whereas if it's odd and negative, they're opposites. Okay, odd positive, they match. Odd negative, they're opposite. Even are usually pretty easy. They're either, if it's even negative, they're both negative. Even positive, both positive. All right, hope that helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, good luck on your test.